Worry has never added a single brick to a better future, but it has stolen peace from countless good lives. It sneaks in quietly through a missed call, an uncertain paycheck, a future you can't fully predict. And before long, it sets up camp in your mind. And once it settles, it doesn't just sit quietly, it drains your focus. It clouds your decisions. It paralyzes your momentum. But here's the truth. Most people never learn. Worry is not a requirement. It's a habit. And like any habit, it can be broken. Not through denial or wishful thinking, but through clear thinking, purposeful action, and inner discipline. You can learn to stop worrying, not by changing the world around you, but by changing the way you respond to it. You can train your mind to replace anxiety with clarity, fear with motion, and doubt with growth. The strongest people you know, they've been worried too, but they built a better relationship with uncertainty. They learned to take control instead of being controlled. Today, I'm going to share with you the powerful lessons that have helped ordinary people take control of their lives, and extraordinary people stay grounded through chaos. You'll hear examples. Some you know, some you'll meet for the first time, and strategies you can start using today. This isn't about magic or motivation, it's about methods. And if you're ready to stop worrying and truly take control of your life, then stay with me for the next few minutes as I show you how. Let's dive in. Number 1, get serious about your life. Worry thrives in a casual life. When you're drifting, uncommitted, or half-hearted, worry finds room to grow. But the moment you get serious, truly serious about your life, worry starts to lose its grip. It knows it can't coexist with purpose. Seriousness doesn't mean stress. It doesn't mean frowning all the time or carrying the weight of the world. It means you've made a decision to stop coasting, a decision to stop waiting, a decision to finally take control. Think about it. No one ever stumbled into a meaningful life by accident. Success, peace, direction, they're earned. And they're earned by people who decide that drifting is no longer an option. The moment you say, I've had enough of this, something shifts. You start building instead of reacting. You stop blaming and start planning. That shift, when you truly get serious, is where transformation begins. Take Abraham Lincoln, for example. Before he became one of the most respected leaders in history, he failed in business, lost elections, and suffered deep personal losses. He had every reason to worry, but instead of getting buried in fear, he got serious. Serious about growth, serious about learning, serious about using his life for something greater. And that seriousness gave him a level of clarity and resilience most people never find. Your story may not be his, but the principle is the same. The moment you treat your time, your energy, and your life like they matter, really matter, is the moment you gain power over your worry. You stop asking, what if? And start saying, here's what I'm going to do. The people who rise in life are not necessarily the smartest or the most talented. They're the ones who say, I'm done playing small. I'm ready to live with intention. Worry hates clarity, and nothing brings clarity faster than a serious decision. So ask yourself, what area of your life needs that kind of seriousness? Is it your health, your finances, your relationships, your future? Pick one. Get clear, get committed, get serious. Because when you do, worry will have no choice but to step aside. Number 2, start where you are with what you have. One of the biggest sources of worry is the false belief that you need more before you can begin. More money, more knowledge, more support, more confidence, and so you wait. You delay, you hesitate, all while the worry grows louder, whispering that you're not ready, that you're too far behind, that others have better tools or better timing. But here's the truth. Every great journey begins right where someone stood, not with perfection, not with guarantees, not with everything figured out, but with the decision to start, right then, right there. You don't need to have it all. You just need to begin with what you've got. Let me tell you about David Brooks from Des Moines, Iowa. He's not famous, but his story is powerful. Just 3 years ago, David was buried under debt, working 2 part-time jobs and watching his relationships fall apart. He was overwhelmed. Worry had wrapped itself around his mind like a fog, clouding every decision, every conversation, every moment of his day. David told himself what most people do. I'll fix it once I get a better job. Or once I'm less stressed, I'll start saving. Or once life calms down, I'll finally take action. But it never calmed down. It only got more chaotic. One night, after another long shift and a declined credit card, something changed. He sat in his car and whispered, I'm not waiting anymore. That night he went home, cleaned his small apartment, made a list of everything he owed, and set a timer for just 1 hour. He spent that hour reading about how to manage money and writing down 3 things he could do the next day. That was it. Nothing dramatic. Just 1 hour. The next day he did what he wrote down. The day after that, he repeated the process. Within a week he had canceled unnecessary subscriptions, started tracking his spending, and applied for a better job. Within a month, he had built a routine. Within a year he was out of debt, healthier, and helping others do the same. What changed? Not his resources, his mindset. He started where he was, and that's what you must do too. Don't wait to feel ready. Readiness is not a feeling, it's a choice. Don't wait to feel motivated. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. And don't underestimate what a small start can lead to when repeated daily with intention. You see, worry feeds on the unknown, but when you start, even with something small, you start replacing the unknown with action, and the worry with direction. You take back control, and control is what worry fears most. You may not have the perfect plan, but you have a next step. You may not have all the answers, but you have a question worth exploring. You may not be at the top of the mountain, but you can take the first step up the hill. And that step, that tiny, seemingly insignificant step, is the most powerful step you'll ever take, because it breaks the chain of inaction. So look around. What can you do with what you have? What can you clean up, simplify, or start tracking? Who can you call? What can you cancel? What can you learn right now, not someday? Start there. Start small. But start. And when you do, you'll realize that the tools were never the problem. It was the waiting that held you back. Worry thrives in hesitation. Confidence grows in movement. So today, start where you are. Use what you have, and take that first step forward. Not because it's perfect, but because it's powerful. Number 3. Learn relentlessly to outgrow worry. Worry often comes from not knowing what's going to happen next, not knowing what to do, not knowing how to handle a challenge. And when your knowledge is small, your fear feels large. But learning, real, focused, intentional learning, shrinks worry down to size. Because the more you understand, the less you fear. The more you prepare, the less you panic. Learning is one of the most powerful antidotes to anxiety, and not just academic learning, but life learning. Learning how to handle failure, learning how to adapt, learning how to communicate better, solve problems faster, and navigate through uncertainty with a calm heart and a clear mind. Let's take the story of Marie Curie. She faced a level of adversity most would crumble under: poverty, discrimination, loss. Yet she became the first woman to win a Nobel Prize, and the only person to win it in 2 different sciences. She didn't do it because she had a smooth path. She did it because she was committed to learning. Curie didn't let her lack of privilege become an excuse. She devoured every book she could get her hands on. She studied when others slept. She failed, then studied more. Her mind became stronger than her fear, and her understanding became a weapon against worry. She knew that as long as she was learning, she was growing. And as long as she was growing, she was moving forward. That's the key. When you commit to relentless learning, you start to outgrow your fears. You become too informed to be paralyzed, too skilled to be stuck. Your vision gets clearer, your decisions get sharper, and your path becomes more visible. But too many people stop learning after school. They think life's education ends with a diploma. But life never stops teaching, and you should never stop learning. If you're worried about your finances, learn how money works. If you're afraid of failure, study how successful people failed forward. If you're anxious about your future, learn how to plan it. Learning doesn't fix everything instantly, but it gives you the tools to face everything more powerfully. Now, don't confuse this with information overload. I'm not saying scroll endlessly through articles or binge videos and call it growth. Real learning is focused. It's applied. It's intentional. It says, here's what I need to know. Here's how I'm going to use it. And here's when I'll take action on it. Make it a habit. Read 1 page a day. Listen to 1 meaningful podcast. Take notes. Reflect. Apply. Make learning your daily armor. Because the world won't stop throwing curveballs, but you can get better at swinging the bat. Worry loves confusion. Learning brings clarity, and clarity is what gives you peace. Here's a simple idea that changed lives. What if, every time you felt anxious, you asked, what can I learn right now that would help me feel more prepared? That question alone shifts you from victim to student. And the moment you become a student, you're no longer helpless. You're growing. And people who are growing don't stay stuck for long. Even 5 minutes of focused learning each day stacked over time can completely transform your confidence. You'll stop saying, I don't know what to do, and start saying, I'm figuring it out. You'll stop avoiding problems and start solving them. And don't just learn from books, learn from life. Learn from your mistakes. Study your bad days. Review your conversations. Ask better questions. Be curious. Every misstep is a masterclass in growth, if you're willing to examine it. Remember this, your mind is your most powerful asset. Sharpen it daily. Strengthen it constantly. And when you do, worry will have no room to grow, because your knowledge, your wisdom, and your confidence will have already filled that space. So today, don't just promise yourself you'll stop worrying. Make a deeper promise. Promise yourself you'll start learning. Not casually, not occasionally, but relentlessly. Because the person who keeps learning is the person who keeps rising. And when you rise, worry can no longer hold you down. Number 4. Discipline kills anxiety. An undisciplined life is a breeding ground for worry. When your days are chaotic, your habits are weak, and your actions are inconsistent, it creates gaps. Gaps where uncertainty creeps in, where small problems grow into big ones, and where worry settles in like an unwanted guest. But the moment you introduce discipline, things begin to change. Discipline builds order, and order quiets the mind. Discipline isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. It's not about doing everything. It's about doing what matters, even when you don't feel like it. Discipline is the quiet force that pulls you forward when your emotions try to pull you back. It's the ability to say, I'll do it anyway, when your mind says, I'd rather not. Let me introduce you to Jasmine Hill from Savannah, Georgia. A single mother of 2, working a day job and taking night classes. Jasmine had every reason to feel overwhelmed. Life was loud. Bills were late. Time was tight. And worry, it followed her everywhere. While driving at work, even in moments meant for rest. But one day she made a decision, not to eliminate every problem at once, but to bring discipline into the chaos. She started small. She woke up 30 minutes earlier, not to hustle, but to prepare. She used that time to write her to-do list, plan her meals, and breathe. Then she created a rule: no phone before noon. That alone gave her back hours of scattered attention. Then she made a weekly budget, no matter how small the income. Slowly but surely, structure began to take root. And as structure grew, anxiety shrank. Jasmine didn't get rid of her problems overnight, but she did something more powerful. She got stronger than her problems, because that's what discipline does. It makes you stronger than the storm. Worry thrives on unpredictability. It loves when things are vague, but discipline brings clarity. When your finances are tracked, your goals are written down, your calendar is managed, and your habits are consistent, you begin to feel less like a victim and more like a leader. You stop asking, what's going to happen to me? And start saying, here's what I'm doing next. And here's the truth. Discipline compounds. Just like money earns interest, discipline earns results. One small habit, repeated daily, starts to change how you see yourself. And when you start seeing yourself as someone who follows through, who shows up, who handles their business, your mind begins to trust you. And when your mind trusts you, it stops sending panic alarms every time life gets messy. Now, I'm not saying discipline is easy. It requires effort. It requires sacrifice. It often asks for you to choose discomfort now in exchange for confidence later. But isn't that a trade worth making? Think of it like this. Every time you choose discipline, you're putting bricks into a foundation that worry cannot shake. The more bricks you lay, early mornings, focused work, conscious choices, the sturdier that foundation becomes. And when the winds of life blow, you won't panic, because you'll be standing on something solid. One of the greatest lies worry tells us is, you can't handle this. But discipline is how you prove that voice wrong. Not once, not with a burst of energy, but day by day, quietly, consistently. Maybe your life feels scattered right now. Maybe worry shows up the moment you wake up. If so, the answer isn't always more information. Sometimes the answer is more structure, more self-leadership, more discipline. Start small. Pick one habit that would bring more order to your day. A morning routine, a journal, A 15-minute cleanup, a strict budget, one habit, done well, can create a ripple effect that transforms everything. Because once you get your life in order, even just a little, you realize that anxiety loses its power. And when you realize that, you stop fearing the future. You start building it. So take a deep breath, tighten up your routine, and let your discipline do the talking. You don't need to have it all together. You just need to show up with structure. Because structure doesn't just support your day, it supports your peace. And when peace shows up, worry gets pushed out every single time. Number 5. Let action silence your doubt. Worry loves stillness. Not the calm, peaceful kind, but the kind where nothing moves, nothing changes, and nothing improves. When you sit too long in your own thoughts, doubt begins to echo. You start replaying the same fears, the same uncertainties, the same what-ifs, and the longer you sit, the louder it gets. But there's a powerful secret many people never discover. Doubt can't survive consistent action. When you begin to move, when you take that first step, you interrupt the cycle. Action breaks the pattern. It shifts your mind from fear into focus, from paralysis into momentum. No one knew this better than Theodore Roosevelt. As a child, he was sickly, fragile lungs, constant illness, a life that looked destined to be lived from the sidelines. Doctors advised against physical strain. But Roosevelt refused to surrender to his limitations. Instead, he embraced activity. He started boxing, hiking, climbing mountains. He pushed his body until it was stronger than the predictions. But it didn't stop there. As an adult, Roosevelt continued to act even in the face of national crises. His life was a pattern of motion, study, decision, leadership. He once said, "In any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing is the wrong thing. The worst thing you can do is nothing." That philosophy made him one of the most dynamic leaders in American history. So let's bring it back to you. What are you worried about right now? Is it something you're overthinking? Something you've been waiting on? Something that's kept you stuck in place, unsure of what to do next? You don't need the perfect plan. You don't need permission. You don't even need full confidence. What you need is movement. One call, one message, one decision, one page written, 1 hour of focus, one task completed. That's it. Action doesn't require full belief. It only requires enough courage to begin. Think of your brain like a machine. When it's stuck in worry, it's running on the wrong code. Fear, uncertainty, hesitation. But when you take action, even something small, you install new code. Your brain says, "Oh, we're moving now. Let's go." You shift from reactive mode to proactive mode. And proactive people are powerful. They don't wait for life to feel easy. They get moving anyway. This doesn't mean reckless movement. It means deliberate steps in the direction of your goals. You don't have to leap. You just have to lean forward. There's another beautiful thing about action. It gives you feedback. When you act, you learn. You learn what works, what doesn't, what needs to change. Worry keeps you stuck in theories. Action gives you reality, and reality, even if imperfect, is better than imaginary fear. Have you ever noticed how much better you feel after doing something you were dreading? That call, that workout, that email, that honest conversation. It didn't eliminate the problem completely, but it relieved the pressure. Why? Because action told your mind, "I'm not helpless. I'm capable. I'm moving." When people say they want confidence, what they really want is evidence. Evidence that they can handle things. And the only way to gather that evidence is by doing. Day by day, action by action, you build a new identity, one that doesn't crumble under stress, but steps forward in the face of it. So if you've been stuck in worry, the answer might not be more analysis. It might be more action. Choose something today that moves you forward, no matter how small. Send the message. Tidy the room. Make the list. Start the research. Do one thing, and let that be the spark. Because the moment you act, you shift the conversation in your head. You stop asking, "What if it goes wrong?" and start asking, "What can I do right now?" That's the power of motion. It doesn't just silence your doubt, it builds your future. So don't wait for clarity to take action. Take action, and clarity will come. Every step forward quiets the noise. And the more you move, the more you'll realize worry can't follow someone who refuses to stand still. Number 6. Reflect to reinforce your power. In a world that moves fast, we often skip one of the most powerful tools we have for personal growth. Reflection. We're trained to go, to chase, to fix, to achieve, but not always to pause and look back with purpose. Yet reflection is how you make your experiences count. It's how you take your mistakes and turn them into lessons. It's how you take your progress and turn it into momentum. And more importantly, it's how you turn worry into wisdom. Worry flourishes when you don't take the time to understand yourself. When you rush through each day without learning from it, you end up repeating the same patterns. But the person who reflects is the person who grows. And the person who grows is the person who begins to take back control. Let me tell you about Marcus Lee from Fresno, California. He wasn't a celebrity or an author. He was a mid-level manager in a logistics company. Marcus had built a decent life, but inside he was drowning in mental clutter. Each morning he woke up with a racing mind, financial pressure, work expectations, family responsibilities, all tumbling around in his thoughts. He couldn't sleep well. He couldn't focus. Worry became his constant companion. One afternoon, while walking through a bookstore on his lunch break, Marcus picked up a plain brown leather journal. It wasn't planned. Something just told him to try it. That evening, he sat down and wrote for 10 minutes. No rules, no pressure. He just wrote what was on his mind. What went well, what didn't, what he was grateful for, and what he wanted to improve. That night, he slept better. Not because his problems disappeared, but because he had processed them. The act of writing gave shape to the chaos. The next day, he did it again and again. What started as 10 minutes became a daily practice. Over time, he started to see patterns, things that triggered stress, habits that drained him, moments that gave him energy. And slowly, Marcus became a different man. Not because life got easier, but because he got clearer. That's what reflection does. It builds clarity. It strengthens awareness. And awareness is what turns reaction into response. You see, reflection reinforces your power. It reminds you of how far you've come. It helps you connect the dots between your choices and your outcomes. It lets you harvest lessons from your days so that no experience is wasted. Even your struggles start to serve you, because you've taken the time to learn from them. So how do you reflect? Start simple. Ask better questions. At the end of each day, ask yourself, what did I do well today? What could I have done better? What drained me? What lifted me? What's one small improvement I can make tomorrow? You don't need an expensive journal or fancy app. You just need the willingness to pause. And if writing isn't your style, talk it out. Go for a quiet walk and review your day in your mind. Think through your conversations, your reactions, your progress. That's reflection too. Don't let your days blur together. Capture their value. Review your efforts. Celebrate the wins. Learn from the losses. Reflection turns daily living into daily learning. And that kind of learning makes you unstoppable. You'll also notice something else. The more you reflect, the less you panic. Why? Because reflection keeps you grounded in reality. It keeps you from spiraling into what-ifs and brings you back to what is. It reminds you of what's true, what's working, and what you're capable of. Here's the bonus. Reflection doesn't just help you manage your past. It prepares you for your future. It sharpens your thinking, improves your decision-making, and deepens your emotional resilience. And it builds an inner confidence that no outside storm can shake. Marcus didn't change the world, but he changed his world. And he did it by taking 10 minutes a day to reflect. You can do the same. So tonight, take a few minutes. Sit in silence. Ask yourself the right questions. Write them down. Speak them out. Do it daily. Because when you start reflecting with intention, you stop living on autopilot, and you start living on purpose. And that, more than anything, is how you take your power back from worry. Not by rushing, not by guessing, but by reflecting, by learning, and by using every single day as a stepping stone to something stronger. Number 7, learn to handle the seasons of life. Life, much like nature, moves in seasons. There are times when everything blooms. Your energy is high, your opportunities are plenty, and your progress feels unstoppable. And then there are times when the winds turn cold, plans fall apart, the phone stops ringing, motivation disappears. We all go through winters. The problem isn't the season, it's how we respond to it. Worry often intensifies during our winters. When the results aren't coming, when nothing seems to work, when uncertainty clouds the road ahead, But what most people forget is this: seasons are natural, they're temporary, and they're always followed by change. The strongest people are not those who avoid tough seasons. They're the ones who learn to handle them with grace, strength, and understanding. Because once you know how to navigate life's winters, they don't scare you anymore. Take Helen Keller, for example. She faced a winter that most of us cannot imagine. At just 19 months old, she lost both her sight and her hearing. Darkness and silence became her world. That kind of hardship could break even the most hopeful heart, and for a while it nearly did. She was locked in frustration, unable to communicate, unable to understand or be understood. But then came a teacher, Anne Sullivan, who refused to let the winter win. Together, they broke through the silence. They built a bridge between isolation and connection, one word at a time. Helen didn't get her sight or hearing back, but she got something more powerful. She got understanding. She learned to speak, to write, to express. She went on to become an author, an activist, and a symbol of what it means to triumph over hardship. Helen Keller's life is proof that winter does not define you. Your response does. Every season teaches something. Winter teaches resilience. It forces you to dig deeper, to hold on longer, to grow roots instead of branches. It teaches patience. Spring, on the other hand, teaches readiness. It brings opportunity, but only for those who are prepared to act. Summer teaches discipline, nourishing what you've planted, protecting what you've built. And autumn teaches responsibility. It's where you reap what you've sown. Worry comes when we expect one season to behave like another. When we expect winter to feel like summer. When we demand results in spring before we've done the planting. But if you align your expectations with the season, you begin to experience peace. You stop trying to force life and start flowing with it. Ask yourself, what season are you in right now? Is it a winter? A time of waiting, rebuilding, surviving? Then don't be discouraged. Winter's end. Just don't waste the winter. Use it. Reflect, reset, plan. Grow your inner strength so that when spring comes, and it will, you're ready. Maybe you're in spring. Everything feels new. You have energy and fresh ideas. Don't waste that either. Take advantage of it. Get moving. Get planting. Because spring doesn't last forever. Or maybe it's summer. You're maintaining what you started. You're building. Keep nourishing your goals. Keep protecting your values. The summer requires consistency. It's not always exciting, but it's essential. And if it's autumn, be honest about your harvest. Celebrate your wins. Learn from your losses. Own the outcome. Because ownership leads to improvement. Seasons are not enemies. They're guides. And worry loses its power when you start treating every season as a necessary part of your development. You stop thinking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this season here to teach me? Helen Keller's greatest contribution didn't come from avoiding pain. It came from transcending it. And yours will too. If you want to stop worrying and take control of your life, learn to respect the rhythm of life. Know that no season stays forever. Know that each season has its own role to play in your growth. And most of all, trust that even the coldest winter is preparing you for a powerful spring. Because the people who handle the seasons best are the ones who worry least. They know the storm isn't the end. It's just part of the story. And you too can become that kind of person. One season at a time. Number 8. Build a personal philosophy of calm. Worry doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. It speaks in quiet doubts, in unfinished thoughts, in sleepless nights, where you stare at the ceiling wondering, what if things don't work out? It lingers when your plans change, or when people disappoint you. But here's something few people realize. You don't have to chase peace. It can live inside you. And that happens when you build a personal philosophy that keeps you steady. No matter how stormy the outside world becomes, everyone lives by a philosophy, whether they realize it or not. It's the way you think, the rules you believe, the conclusions you've made about life. Some philosophies create panic. Others create peace. If your philosophy says, everything must go right for me to feel okay, you're going to feel anxious often. But if your philosophy says, no matter what happens, I'll respond with purpose, then you've already won half the battle with worry. Let me introduce you to Cynthia Perez from San Antonio, Texas, a middle school teacher with 2 kids. Cynthia had always been a bit of a perfectionist. She wanted things organized, predictable, controllable, But life, of course, had other plans. Her school changed leadership. Her husband was laid off. Her teenage daughter was going through a rebellious phase. All the control Cynthia depended on was slipping through her fingers. She started having anxiety attacks. She tried to fix everything at once. Read every book, attend every webinar, make every list. But the more she tried to grip tighter, the more she worried. One day, exhausted and emotionally drained, she sat down with her mentor, an older teacher named Mrs. Wilson, who had taught for 40 years. Mrs. Wilson said something that changed Cynthia's life. "You can't stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf." That sentence became the anchor for Cynthia's new personal philosophy. She started writing down her beliefs, not the ones she inherited, but the ones she chose. The first one was this: "I will not borrow pain from tomorrow." That became her daily mantra. She wrote it on sticky notes. She repeated it during stressful moments, and over time it reshaped her mindset. Her problems didn't disappear overnight, but her perspective did. She stopped obsessing over outcomes. She focused on effort. She became more present, more patient, and more peaceful. Not because the world changed, but because her inner world did. That's the power of building a personal philosophy of calm. So how do you build one? You start by asking better questions. What do I believe about pressure, about success, about failure, about time, about people, about uncertainty? Write your answers down. Then ask, are these beliefs helping me stay calm or feeding my anxiety? Then start replacing reactive beliefs with intentional ones. Here are a few powerful replacements. Instead of "I have to do everything," say "I'll do what matters most today." Instead of "What if I fail?" say "If I fail, I'll learn and try again." Instead of "I can't handle this," say "I'll handle this one step at a time." Instead of "Everything must go right," say "I can grow through anything." Make your philosophy simple, repeatable, and honest. Don't create unrealistic mantras. Create grounded ones that you can actually live by when life gets hard. This isn't just mindset work. It's life design. Because when your beliefs are steady, your emotions follow. And when your emotions are steady, your actions become more effective. You lead your life instead of reacting to it. Here's something else to remember. Calm isn't passive. It's not about being quiet and doing nothing. It's about carrying peace into action. It's doing your work with a steady hand. Having conversations without needing to control the outcome. Making decisions from values, not fear. Calm doesn't mean you don't feel pressure. It means pressure doesn't control you. Cynthia still has tough days. Her daughter still tests boundaries. The school still throws curveballs. But Cynthia's different now. She has a foundation, a philosophy, and that inner stability has changed how she lives and how she leads. You can do the same. Write your philosophy. Live by it. Adjust it as you grow. But don't drift through life, hoping worry will go away. Replace it with something stronger, your chosen beliefs. Because when you decide how you think, you decide how you live. And when calm becomes your philosophy, control returns to your life. Number 9. Use words to work miracles. Words are not just sounds or symbols on a page. They're tools. They're seeds. They're bridges. They can start wars or stop them. They can build confidence or crush it. And more often than we realize, they can turn the tide of our own inner battles. If you want to stop worrying and take control of your life, you need to master one of the most underrated superpowers available to you, the power of words. Worry grows in silence. When you bottle up your fears, your doubts, your questions, they swell. But the moment you start putting them into words, speaking them out, writing them down, reframing them, you begin to shrink their power. You make the invisible visible. You bring structure to the storm. And most of all, you reclaim your ability to direct your own mind. Winston Churchill knew this well. He was not just a leader during one of the darkest times in history. He was a communicator who moved nations. When bombs fell over London and fear blanketed the streets, Churchill didn't panic. He didn't pretend the danger wasn't real. Instead, he stood up and spoke truth with strength. "We shall not flag or fail. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall never surrender." His words became a shield over a shaken people. His voice became the anchor when everything around them felt like it was falling apart. Did his speeches remove the threat? No. But they gave people something greater than safety. They gave them strength. That's what powerful words do. They lift. They energize. They restore clarity in chaos. Now, you don't have to be Churchill to use words effectively. But you do have to become more intentional about how you speak, especially to yourself. Most of the worry you experience doesn't come from the world. It comes from the story you're telling yourself about the world. Instead of saying this is too much, you can say, I'll handle this one step at a time. Instead of I always mess this up, try I'm learning and I'm getting better. Instead of nothing ever goes my way, remind yourself there's something in this I can use. Words matter, because words shape belief and belief shapes behavior. If you speak fear, you create fear. If you speak strength, you build strength. This doesn't mean ignoring problems or pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing words that give you power, not take it away. It means becoming your own coach instead of your own critic. Speak the way you'd speak to someone you love who's struggling. Encourage yourself like you would encourage your best friend. And don't stop with yourself. Use your words to lift others. One kind message can interrupt someone's spiral of worry. One sincere compliment can reset someone's belief. You never know how much weight someone is carrying until your words help them lift it. But this goes even deeper. Your words can shape the culture around you, in your home, in your workplace, in your community. If you're the voice of calm when others panic, people will remember. If you're the one who speaks solutions when others complain, people will follow. That's influence. And influence always starts with language. Here's something powerful to try. Write a personal script. Just a few sentences you can say to yourself when worry creeps in. It might go like this. I've faced challenges before and I've overcome them. I'm not powerless. I'm not lost. I know what matters, and I'm taking the next step. This will not break me. It will build me. Repeat it. Say it out loud. Post it where you'll see it. Words don't work by magic. They work by repetition. Speak them enough, and your brain starts believing. And when your brain believes, your behavior changes. Remember, worry grows in silence, but it shrinks in conversation. So don't stay quiet. Speak on purpose. Choose your words like you choose a tool to build something lasting, because that's what your life is. A construction of beliefs, choices, and actions. And words are the blueprint behind it all. You don't need to be loud. You just need to be clear. Speak life. Speak progress. Speak courage. And watch how your world begins to change. One sentence at a time. Number 10. Take full responsibility, then let go. Worry often disguises itself as responsibility. You start by caring. And that's good. You want things to go well. You want people to be happy. You want life to unfold the way you planned. But somewhere along the line, that healthy sense of ownership crosses into overthinking, over-controlling, and overburdening yourself with things you were never meant to carry. And suddenly responsibility turns into worry. Caring turns into fear, and your peace begins to fade. But there's a better way, a stronger way. It's the path of real responsibility. Not the kind that drains you, but the kind that frees you. Real responsibility says this: I own my choices. I own my reactions. I own what I do with what happens. And once I've done my part, I let go. That's the balance that most people never learn. They either try to control everything, or they blame everyone. But true power lives in the middle. You take full responsibility for what you can control, and then you release the rest. Let me tell you about Kevin Daniels from Richmond, Virginia. Kevin had built a small business over 7 years. Late nights, personal sacrifice, constant hustle. It was his dream. But when a major contract fell through, followed by a global economic shift, his company crumbled. The debt piled up. His confidence collapsed. And the worry, it was endless. Sleepless nights, doubtful mornings, every moment filled with one thought: I failed. At first, Kevin looked for someone to blame. The economy, the client, bad timing. But none of it gave him peace. Then he went the other direction. He blamed himself for everything. He took on shame, guilt, self-loathing. That didn't bring peace either. What changed everything was the day he made a new kind of decision. Not to blame, and not to beat himself up, but to take responsibility for what was his, and release what wasn't. He sat down, wrote out everything that went wrong, and asked himself, what did I learn? What would I do differently? What can I control now? That process of honest reflection was hard, but it was healing, because it allowed him to reclaim his sense of direction without carrying unnecessary guilt. He took responsibility, but he also forgave himself. and then he started again. Today, Kevin runs a leaner, stronger business, but more importantly, he lives with a lighter heart. Not because life got easier, but because he got wiser. That's the lesson. You don't have to carry everything to grow from it. So how do you live this principle? Start by doing a responsibility check. Ask yourself, what's actually within my control? Make a list. It might include your attitude, your habits, your communication, your schedule, your energy. These are the things you own. Pour your effort into them. Improve them. Build structure around them. Then ask, what's not in my control? Other people's decisions, the past, unexpected setbacks, the weather, the economy. Let those things go. Not because they don't matter, but because they don't belong on your shoulders. Worry is what happens when you hold on to what was meant to be released. This isn't about ignoring problems. It's about focusing your energy where it can actually make a difference. When you shift your focus to what's in your hands, your anxiety decreases and your influence increases. That's the irony. You gain more power when you stop trying to control everything. And here's something powerful to remember. Responsibility doesn't mean pressure. It means possibility. It means that no matter what life throws at you, you still have a say in how the story unfolds. You're not a victim of circumstance. You're a creator of outcomes. So take responsibility with confidence. Own your life. Own your decisions. Own your recovery. Own your growth. But don't confuse ownership with obsession. Once you've done your best, release the rest. Let go of needing a perfect outcome. Let go of carrying other people's burdens. Let go of the idea that everything depends on you. It doesn't, and it never did. When you take full responsibility and then let go, you finally make space for peace. And that peace is what gives you clarity, focus, and strength to keep moving forward. So from this moment forward, live by this truth. I'm responsible for what I do, not for how it all turns out. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. And with that wisdom, worry has no room left to stay. Worry may have walked with you for years. It may have stolen your sleep, hijacked your thoughts, and whispered doubts into your dreams. But after everything you've heard today, let this be the turning point. Let this be the moment you draw the line and say, no more. Because now you know worry isn't something you have to live with. It's something you can outgrow, outsmart, and overcome. And you don't need perfect conditions to do it. You need decisions. You need discipline. You need direction. And those are all within your reach, starting now. You've learned the power of getting serious about your life. You've seen how starting with what you have can build unstoppable momentum. You've discovered that relentless learning and daily discipline create a structure strong enough to silence fear. You've been reminded that action crushes doubt, that reflection builds clarity, and that handling life's seasons with wisdom keeps you grounded, no matter the storm. You've met real people, some famous, some not, who turned their worry into fuel. And now it's your turn. Your turn to build a personal philosophy that keeps you calm. Your turn to speak words that work miracles. Your turn to take full responsibility, not to punish yourself, but to free yourself. But knowing is not enough. You must act. You must apply. You must begin. So here's your call to action. Choose one principle from today and live it. Not tomorrow. Not when life feels easier. Today, write that journal entry. Make that phone call. Create that plan. Speak that truth. Let go of that weight you've carried for far too long. And if you found value in this message, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Send it to someone who needs to hear it. Start conversations that matter. Because when we stop worrying and take control of our lives, we don't just change ourselves, we light the path for others too. Remember this, worry may knock, but it doesn't have to stay. You have the strength, the tools, and the voice to show it the door. Now go, take your peace back, and live the kind of life worry was never invited to.